join the army?
I was 18 and a half.
Okay. You fight in Normandy, Gold Beach on day 3. What did you there?
I went to try and find a suitable place for 1,000 vehicles, to find a vehicle park. I think today I found out that where I went was a chateau which was occupied by the 21st Panzer Division, and where they had their tanks, we placed all our vehicles because they'd gone by that time.
Which countries did you fight in?
France, to Belgium, to Holland, and then on to Germany when the war ended.
Which rank were you?
I was a private, the lowest you can get.
Which equipment did you have with you?
Well, a rifle, apart from water bottle and emergency food, and all that sort of thing, water bottle, ammunition, gas mask.
Which rifle have you?
A Lee Enfield rifle. That was a general issue. Everyone had a Lee Enfield 303.
How did you get close on location food, ammunition, and fuel?
The Royal Army Service Corps supplied those, ammunition and petrol.
Were you also helped by the resistance?
I didn't personally see any resistance. I didn't come across any.
Okay. Which armored normal vehicles did you have at your disposal?
Well, we had 1,000 vehicles of all kinds, including tanks, Comet tanks, I remember anymore. Comet tanks, I can't remember now, Sherman, but tanks, all kinds of vehicles, from folding bicycles, motorcycles, jeeps, personnel carriers. We had 1,000 of them. We held 1,000, made sure we had 1,000. As they went out, we got new ones in. Kept the army supplied. We kept.
You also fight against a Tiger tank.
I did see there were a troop of 10 Tiger tanks who were approaching us at one time. We were just digging into a nice hole covered by a tent, and we told they were about 10 miles away heading towards us. So we left the hole, piled our stuff into lorries, and retreated. There was nothing that could stop a Tiger tank. In the end, it was the RAF that bombed them.
Were you also under fire from the Germans?
Mostly it went over our heads. When we were near the coast in Normandy, they fired at the coast and shells went over our heads. It wasn't very pleasant because one might have dropped a bit short. But they didn't hit me. And I'm still here.
Yeah. Um, have you ever been under sniper fire?
Only when I landed, I felt bullets. I didn't feel them, I heard them whistling, so I kept my head down. When we landed, we were met by French people, women and children and old men mostly. And they were throwing flowers, offering glasses of wine, blowing kisses, which was all very nice. But then we had the sniper fire and they decided better move on. More important to stay alive.
Did you have a lot cover on the beach?
There was firing around us. Nobody seemed to bother. No one wanted to fire at me. They didn't think I was worth it. No, when I landed, the Germans were, how should I say, they didn't know what had hit them. They weren't reorganised. It took a few days before they organised themselves again. And I came in just at that moment, which was very lucky.
Do you still have your uniform?
I still have uniform.
Yes.
No, we had to hand every item in except our underwear. Or I did anyway when I left the army at the end of 1946. Every item had to be ticked off and handed in. I don't know what they did with it.
When did you know that Operation Market Garden was underway?
I think it was nearly over. We didn't know the name it was given, the code name. We knew the parachutists had gone in ahead of us. We didn't know what had happened to them. And we were following up through Eindhoven, Nijmegen, onto Arnhem. We stopped at Nijmegen. We didn't know why, except obviously the army wasn't getting any further. And gradually we learned that there was a hold-up. They couldn't go any further. So at Nijmegen, we took over an old people's home that had just been built before the war, 1939, in Nijmegen, or the outskirts of Nijmegen. Some French Canadians had been there before us. Well, while we were in Holland, didn't see any Dutch people at all, not even one. They kept out of our way.
How long did you in Nijmegen?
How long?
Yes.
I think it was about 3 weeks.
And do you remember the name of the old people's home?
We stayed in an old people, well, no old people there. I don't know where they'd gone. I don't know the name of it, no.
Okay.
It was brand new in the beginning of the war. And it didn't look like that when I got there. Whether the Germans had used it first, I don't know. But French Canadians had used it just before us, and they turned it into a laboratory.
Okay. Where did you cross the Rhine?
Well, it must have been about 3 weeks. I don't know what date it was, but we were in Nijmegen about 3 weeks, and then we crossed the Rhine, and that was a lovely feeling. First of all, we've been liberating countries, and now we cross the Rhine and beginning to occupy Germany. It was the beginning of the end for Germany. And that was a lovely feeling. I got as far as Stella, which is next to Bergen-Belsen.
And what did you do then you crossed the Rhine? What did you have to do?
I was still doing the same thing, supplying vehicles to the army of all kinds. But as I left my unit, I had to go to the hospital for 3 days. I had an ear infection. And then they moved up to Hamburg. So when I came back, I was waiting at Saba, next to Bergen-Belsen, the concentration camp. And while I was waiting to be picked up to go to Berlin to deal with Germany's poison gas shells and poison gas bombs, I was supposed to dispose of them in the Baltic Sea. But while I was waiting to be picked up, I spent some time at the camp, which had just been liberated, speaking to the people there, which was very, very moving. I wasn't picked up at the end. It was a mistake. I wasn't picked up, so my old CO sent for me to go back to England to prepare for the beach landings in Japan. But the Japanese heard I was coming, so they surrendered.
Ever see I wish in Berlin?
I was supposed to be going to Berlin, but the unit, the company that was going to pick me up, wasn't told about it. So I waited in an SS barracks in Saba in Germany. I waited for 2 weeks, but I wasn't picked up. And then my old commanding officer sent for me to come back to the United Kingdom, ready to go to Japan, which I wasn't happy about. But he didn't ask me, he just told me.
Yes.
They have that habit in the army. They don't say, would you mind? They don't say please in the army.
Yeah. Did you have to leave many vehicles behind after the war?
Well, when I left, the war was over. The next day, while I was on a train, I didn't even know till the following day that the war was over. I was on my way back to Bruges and to England. All our vehicles were left behind. The army was still there. Other people took over the job. But obviously they weren't losing vehicles as quickly as they had been before.
Yeah. What did you do after the war?
First I tried to get a job, but I was told I was too old. I was 22 by that time. They thought I was too old. How I could have got a job earlier, I don't know. But I tried various things. In the end, I was selling fur coats, and then I started the imitation fur, if you remember that. Simulation, the ersatz fur coats, and they're sold all over, to the Soviet Union, to America, to Arab countries in their heat. And that was very good. But only for a few years. And I edited a newspaper, and I did journalism, and I carried on printing, started a printing company, and kept going till the rent went up so much I couldn't carry on, so I retired. Now I've just written a book about writing.
Yeah. Not a question, but a conclusion to the interview. I would like to thank you and to follow veterans for the courage you have shown and others to prophecy. It should never be forget.
Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you, Sian. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.